So I was in Vancouver back in the summer. I'd been on hormones for 3 or 4 months, and I was hanging out with my little brother who's into craft cocktails, and we went to this really cool bar in East Van where we both grew up. It was called the Kiefer, I think. It's a really nice little place. And the bartender places this cocktail, probably a Negroni, in front of me. And I dropped something. And as I'm going down to pick it up, because we're sitting at the bar, we're at a height, I graze my nipple right against the edge. And oh my gosh, did that hurt. It made my head kind of spin for a second. And as I clutched my chest, I'm sure people thought I was having a heart attack. And I came to, my little brother, whom I love, was chuckling as he took his first sip. And all he said was, "Hormones?" Hi, my name is Kate Madden. I'm a sales and marketing expert who lives in Calgary, Alberta. I'm passionate about community, collaboration, and creativity. I also happen to be a transgender woman. And in today's video, I want to talk about just some of the changes I've experienced physically, sexually, and mentally over the last 12 months. It'll be 1 year on Friday that I've been on hormone replacement therapy, hormones, HRT. You'll see any number of abbreviations. So, I look like crap. I got up this morning. I was out last night. I looked fantastic last night. But this morning got up and did not want to get ready at all. So this is me in my natural element. I learned last night, maybe wearing nylons in -40 is not such a good idea. So the point of this segment, though, this little bit, is not to look like Casey Neistat, although that would be awesome. Stylistically, I mean. It's that the regulation of my body temperature is something that I've really noticed over the last year, and especially in the last 3 or 4 months, to be exceptionally difficult. I swing back and forth from hot to cold, from cold to hot, sweats to chills, shaking vigorously in the middle of the night, usually at nighttime, but sometimes during the day. And it doesn't matter what I'm wearing. If I'm in jeans, if I'm in leggings, if I'm in a skirt, if I'm wearing my winter coat, if I'm under 3 blankets, talking to other women. I understand this to be a very common side effect in menopause. So maybe it's like a hot flash that I'm getting, perhaps. But it's -23 right now. So it's warmed up. It's a beautiful day. It's just freaking cold. And so because it's so cold, I just said screw it. And I'm going to go to the coffee shop over here just to chill for a little bit and collect my thoughts before doing some more filming tonight. So body temperature regulation, homeostasis, I think, if I remember from high school biology. I've been on 2 types of blockers. So currently I am on cyproterone. Everyone just calls it Cipro. I really like this. This had an immediate and awesome impact on me physically, as compared to spironolactone that I was on for the first 6 months. I take progesterone. Some girls take it to simulate a cisgender woman's natural cycle. My doctor wants me on it because he's concerned about blood clots being over 40 years old. So it's just something he feels is an extra precaution. I've been on synthetic hormones, synthetic progesterone, and this is bioidentical. I noticed a massive difference mentally. It was like a fog lifted when I went on the bioidentical stuff. Again, just my experience. And then these little blue pills. Can you see those? Estradiol. I take 8 milligrams a day, which is the maximum dosage, at least in Canada, under the protocol here. There's other forms. I've taken patches. My body did not take at all to patches. And for the month of August, I had 0 estrogen in my body. And because I had been switched to the Cipro, I had zero testosterone. And if you want to know what it's like to walk around with no hormones in your body of any kind, it's terrifying actually. And they weren't anxiety attacks, but I would have these moments of tremendous anxiousness. Couldn't sleep. I was getting an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours of sleep a night. And after 3 or 4 weeks, I went back to the doctor and I was like, get me off this. After I did a blood test, and yes, I had zero anything. Stayed on the Cipro though, and I'm very happy with the Cipro. Physically, what I noticed in the first 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, was that my chest was sore, kind of up here, as if I had been doing that incline bench press, maybe, or the military bench press that you see folks do in the gym. And it felt like the muscles were expanding, for sure. Sensitive nipples, like I shared in the beginning. 2 months in, 2.5 months, hair I noticed starting to come out. Hasn't stopped. A couple of things with the hair. One, what I've read, at least in terms of the shedding, is that the estrogen is pushing out the old testosterone hair and filling in with new hair. So that's cool. The other thing I noticed, and a friend of mine is a hairstylist, and she was doing my hair, and I used to have a really big bald spot right here, to the point where my kids made fun of me, as did their mom, and how big it was getting. It's gone. So I saw her, I'm gonna say 8 months in, and I was like, "Watch, please be careful," because she was trimming my hair. I was like, "There's a bald spot there. I don't want it to." I was very worried, and I could feel her moving around, and she couldn't find it. So that was really cool. My ex-wife reported a change in the way I smelled, and we lived together for 4 months or so after I started taking hormones. I think to the day, actually. And but she noticed a change in my smell, and she kind of compared it to cleaning chemicals, and it wasn't in a mean way. It was just something she had noticed and commented on in passing. So I have never noticed a change. Like I've talked to people who noticed a change in their body odor. I haven't noticed anything. Speaking of hair, from the time I was about 12 or 13, I dealt with dandruff. Whenever my hair got past a certain length, I would get terrible, terrible dandruff, like snowstorm dandruff. It was really gross, and I was always self-conscious about it, especially wearing dark suits or I rarely wore black t-shirts because of it. And I don't know when it really occurred, but I haven't had a haircut in 16 months or so, 17 months maybe, and I haven't had dandruff once. So I'm really happy about that, actually. That's a really cool thing that I'm going to attribute to hormones. Fat redistribution happened with me. My belly is so much softer. It reminds me of a girlfriend I had in high school. And my thighs as well. Like I noticed my jeans started to fill out more in my thighs. I haven't really noticed in the hips or the butt, but definitely in the thighs for sure. I like it. I can feel it. But yeah, the fat redistribution. So one of the things that I noticed once I was put on the Cipro was that my skin was smoothed out. And I was using moisturizer beforehand, and it felt nice, but as soon as I took that Cipro, within 2-3 days, I noticed an immediate impact on my skin. And I've heard people say that your skin gets thinner. I don't know if that's true. Perhaps it is something I've noticed. Another thing with the Cipro was shrinkage. Like imagine going into cold water shrinkage. So I didn't have to tuck as aggressively. Like it just kind of disappeared. So that was actually kind of cool. About 2 months ago, so I'm a year on Friday, so 9 months in, 10 months in, One of the things I began to notice in photos of myself was that my eyes were lighter in color. And I haven't been able to really confirm that or not, but just looking at some of the photos, especially in the last 4 or 5 weeks, my eyes in certain light just are a very different green now than they were a year ago. I'm going to say 9 months, 10 months in, there was a period of time when I could not drink alcohol. It was about 4 weeks after I'd been switched to Cipro. And 2 drinks, 3 drinks, and I would just start to pass out. And to the point where I talked to my doctor about it, and because I wasn't drunk, but I would be physically overcome. And I was worried, oh my gosh, my liver is messed up. But he assured me the counts were all fine and blood tests weren't showing anything. It passed, but it was really weird. Like, I'd be out with girlfriends or whatever, and I would just start to nod off. And if you've been out with me, you know what that's like. But it's been a while, and I've also stopped drinking, but that's another video. But that was something I noticed, and just a heads up to you out there. Maybe it's with winter, and I grew up in Vancouver, and I moved to northern Alberta, and what I noticed in the first year or so is I would fall asleep during the winter. Seasonal affective disorder, it's a thing. I didn't believe it until I began to live there and would fall asleep at 4:30, 5 o'clock. So maybe it's just being in the coldest winter in 21 years here in Calgary, but I'm struggling to stay awake around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I will just pass right out, just solid gone. And maybe it just needs a 15-minute nap, and other times it's an hour and a half. It's very difficult to stay awake. And so exhaustion is something that I've heard about from other girls, something I've read about online, and something I've experienced as well. Muscle mass, I was exercising a lot through the course of my transition. I was working as a side gig as a photographer, and that was very physical, just burpees for an hour, constant up and down, trying to get the shot. And so I started working out, and as the hormones kicked in, I rapidly lost weight. And so I lost about 70 pounds in 6 months, 7 months. A lot of stress there as well, as I was going through the early stages of a separation. But muscle mass was something I noticed. My wrists have shrunk by the watches by 2 watch bands sizes. My feet have shrunk an entire shoe size. And I'm not sure where else I've changed. I don't know if I've lost height. I haven't measured my height in some time, but I've read about people losing up to 4 inches as their pelvis tilts, but I think I'm too old for that. So in that my bones are fused. I don't know, but at any rate, I've seen it in my wrists and I've seen it in my feet. So I used to be a size 12 women's, and now I'm a size 11. So I was a 9.5, 10 men's, and I guess I'm smaller now. So what I like about being an 11 is I can walk into any store and there's shoes for me, and I've got some nice heels that I can wear to work. So it's the day after I recorded the first little bit there about body regulation. It's still freaking gold, minus 20 something, but I had to go to work today, so looking a little different today. But I just got some time between meetings, and I wanted to quickly record a bit on my sexual experience over the last year, the first year on hormones, how it's impacted me from just my sexuality in general. So some trans girls talk about how they were heterosexual men previously and now they're heterosexual women, or they were heterosexual men and now they're gay women. And really, like, in terms of sexual orientation, like, have fun, go nuts. You're gonna enjoy it. I know, certainly as a queer woman, I absolutely have. But in thinking about this, what I really noticed was that in the first couple of months, you will absolutely notice a reduction in your sex drive. But there'll be another 2, 3, 4 times when you notice a continual erosion of that sex drive, and it's almost as if it were an exponential magnification of that initial realization, to the point where it's just gone. Now, I've been told that eventually it comes back, but at least over the first 12 months, it has not come back for me at all. I've been in female range now for 5 or 6 months in terms of my hormones, but yeah, it's something I absolutely have noticed, that just a slow and steady erosion of that sex drive. About 4 months in or so, 5 months in, I can't recall, but I got a message from my friend Brooke, and she lives on the other side of the country, but we work for the same company, and so we chat here and there, and the message simply said, "Have you had a female orgasm yet?" And yeah, it actually had happened for the first time like a night or two before that, and it's amazing. Like it's just totally different, and it feels so good. Even when you're having penetrative sex, while you're still able to have an erection, it was a different experience, and it's kind of more like the full pelvis is involved, and then it moves up, at least in my experience, moves up into the belly, and it stays in the belly. There's that sensation, and then you're good to go again, and that's pretty fun. Speaking of erections, it's gonna disappear. I know some girls, especially the married ones, want to be able to maintain their ability to function sexually. However, once you're in female range, and this is kind of anecdotally just talking to other local girls, is that it's gone. We're able to maintain some, or for a brief period of time, but it's gone. And even with prescription for Cialis and Viagra, because there's no testosterone, there's no real response. My doctor suggested that if I wanted to, I could go off my blockers for a couple days beforehand if I knew something was going to happen, but I don't want to do that. It doesn't feel good in my mind, at least, to have testosterone re-enter my body. And I think finally the last bit of my sexual experience during the first year on hormones, or how my sexuality has shifted, is just moving from transmit to receive. And I'm not suggesting this is analogous at all to the concept of being a top or a bottom, but and really I'm kind of a switch, so it doesn't matter. But in terms of how you feel during the moment, or how you're expressing your desire when it does come, or how you receive that other person's desire. And this has been my experience with both men and with women, is that really it's more of a reception of that attention or affection or attraction, and I really like it. So that's been my experience from a sexual perspective during the first year on hormones as a 40-something-year-old girl. So that was the NSFW portion, and the rest of the video I think is pretty tame. Mentally, psychologically, one of the things that I began to notice 4 weeks in was emotions. And I got a bit of disappointing news at work. A colleague called me to tell me something, and I was sad for sure. And as I was feeling that disappointment, I felt like this magnifying glass kind of came in, and it just created this bigger emotion. And my throat got like that lump in your throat developed. It was there for 2 days. I cried, like just these tears came out, and I couldn't stop them. The other thing that with those tears that I noticed is, at one point my estrogen levels were 5 times female range, and like, don't do sublingual estrogen. That was my mistake. But at any rate, I would cry uncontrollably, and had a lot of really bad mood swings that was very difficult for my ex-wife, and I was not at my best in those moments. But those tears would come, and now that I'm in female range and have been hormonally stable for many months, I was talking with my friend Nick about and Nick is female to male, and we kind of chuckled like about estrogen and testosterone, and I don't miss it. And I said something about punching holes in the wall because I did that, and I just had a really bad, ugly cry. I took a picture. It's on Instagram. You can see it. It's there. Look through my feed. But I'd had an ugly cry the day before about some stuff going on, and it's kind of coming from the same place, that sense of frustration, that you can't change the situation, and your emotions are so overwhelming that it's just there. And previously I would get angry and physical, and now I just cry. And so he laughed because he's gone the other way and he punches holes in the wall now. And testosterone is, when you have those, I'm sure scientifically we are designed and built, us trans people are built for those natural receptors. Just so many of us talk about the impact it has on us mentally that I'm sure it's just as much a wonder drug for someone going the other way as estrogen is for me coming this way. I began to experience anxiety, separate from trauma, separate from the stress of the divorce, just, oh my gosh, anxiety, like the kind where you're just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, afraid. It's not afraid. It's like you can't move. So, it's never become a depression for me. At least I don't think it has. I've talked to my psychologist about it, but it's these moments where it's just really hard, and I've had many of them really since I got into female range, and so that's a new experience, not one that I ever went through previously. And part of it could also be that I'm not disassociating anymore to the level that I was, or at all, prior to transition. So something to consider, or something to be aware of. Get a therapist, get a counselor. My counselor, I've been seeing her regularly now for 8 or 9 months. She's awesome. We recently did some hypnosis and EMDR work, and that has been incredible for some trauma I went through last year. So that's kind of the mental and psychological stuff. So physical, sexual, and mental. And finally, the last piece is just other people's perceptions of you and how you're changing. And prior to coming out, so I started hormones in February, and I came out to all my coworkers in the end of April, early May. Last 3 days, first day of May. So what is that? March, April, May. 3 months, 90 days. And I had been working out, but all of a sudden people start to comment on my physique, my weight loss, and what's your secret? And it progressed to, are you sick? People began to get worried about my weight loss, or that I was stressed. They knew about the divorce, the separation, and so they began to get worried about me. And a lot of the questions became very invasive and it made me very uncomfortable, in that I didn't feel like I could be honest with them. So I felt like a liar, on top of being a liar for 100 years. I was this close to being free and still having to lie about who I really was. So I began to come out, and I've talked a little bit about that in another video. I'll probably do a very detailed expansion of my coming out story in the future, but the people's perceptions began to change of me physically. 4 months in, I flew into Toronto, and I was at a conference, and people who have known me for years were walking by me, not recognizing me. So something to be pointed out with that. 6 months in, 7 months in, I'd go see clients, and I thought I was still presenting male. Khakis, golf shirt. But one of my clients was completely blown away. He knew, he had heard, he had been informed by HR and everything, but it really caught him off guard. And I don't think he has seen me since, so I don't think he has seen me in a dress yet either. So the next time he sees me is going to be kind of funny, enjoyable, in a good way. He'll be cool. It's great. But people didn't recognize me. And then my perception changed as well. And guys that I had been bigger than, I noticed I was now smaller than. And I really noticed it in the shoulders and in the chest. And they could hurt me now. And that was something I became very aware of, is that I was shrinking in size and they were bigger than me now. The other thing that after I came out and still in between coming out and full time, it was that I was no longer one of the guys either. But now wearing high heels, it's kind of cool because I'm taller than all of them. So 5'10", so 3-inch, 4-inch heels, and a tall chick. So that's kind of fun. And then finally, to touch on what I was mentioning about sexuality previously, is that I noticed with a certain type of guy, that chachi kind of sales guy, used car salesman, if you will, slick back hair, maybe 2 buttons undone on their shirt or a loose tie. And if you like this thing, all the power to you. What I noticed was I was physically repulsed by these guys in specific between 3 and 7 months in. And it was very odd, and still when I meet them, I come across them wherever, at a party, on the street, in a professional environment, I feel it. And so it's kind of a different sensation for me, and I just need to process that. So that's kind of my experience the first year on hormones. And because I, like a lot of closeted trans girls who would go to YouTube and access YouTube, I don't see a lot of them anymore on YouTube, but was the transition videos. I'll post some photos here after I say goodbye that you can just check out over the last 12, 16 months or so. Just from that denial beard to today. I'll put a photo I took. I was out at a fundraiser for trans youth on Saturday night. So Skipping Stone Foundation, I volunteer there. It's a local organization here in Calgary that helps youth provincially. If you have a moment, I'll put a link down there. Go check out their website if you can donate a few bucks. It's not about changing lives really. It's about saving lives, and just the impact that support can have on trans youth is amazing. So anyhow, without further ado, I'll cut over to the photos. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like. I hope that you found value, and I hope you found this informative. And shoot me a DM. Look me up on Instagram, LinkedIn, here on YouTube. If you're not comfortable publicly posting, I get the messages, and I try to respond to all the trans girls, or also other creatives. So if you're another creative, you want to chat, would love that as well. Have a great night. So in November of 2017, I told my former partner that I just couldn't do it anymore and I needed to begin hormones and begin the transition from male to female. I broke her heart, and it was something that we had really struggled with as a couple. Just my struggle with identity and how to express that, articulate that, and my own fear of being authentic and what that meant in terms of the consequences. And so at first, so for the first 3 months or so, we were trying to make our plans. We have children together. We had a house. We have a house, and we had initially developed a 2-year plan that we would live together for 2 years, and then I would move out, and then I would begin hormones. 2.5 months later, 3 months later, I was in the basement, she was upstairs. I will readily admit I was not my best self. Arguments, tension, stress. And one day out of the blue, she just said, "You shouldn't wait. Just start. Go get hormones." And I will be forever grateful that I didn't have to wait 2 years. And that here I am 12 months later, living and loving my life. It was very hard for her to say that. And so thank you.